Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the Review Guy, reviewing music for the love of music, back again to bring you your weekly metal and rock track roundup. If you haven't seen last week's, go ahead and go check it out. I really appreciate the support on that video. I like this new style, this new format for these videos. It's a way for me to get through a ton of tracks that I can't give solid, just one-on-one reviews of and track review every single time a new track comes out, and this is a way for me to expose tracks that you maybe didn't know came out through the week, or just highlight some underground releases that I think are great. As always, all of the links to all of these releases will be down in the description box below, so I encourage you to go check out all of them if they pique your interest. And of course in my banner is my email address where you can send me your own band for submission for this series. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First up is this band Barishi with The Silent Circle, a band I had not previously heard of. This is an almost 11-minute massive track. These guys are boasting a quite contemplative progressive death metal style. Some bits remind me a little bit of Rivers of Nile's last record. The thing I'm really loving on this track though has to be the bass work. It's super intelligible and very grinding. This track can border on long-winded at times, but there is something super endearing and intriguing about how patient they are. Ovaryrot has seen fit to drop a new single with Corrupted and Transfer. These guys are an experimental death grind duo and one that I have covered in the past. While the more gore grind centric bits might seem a bit one note in comparison and blend in quite a bit with some of their recent material, the reason I think this track stands out amongst their past work from the band is simply how unique this comes off. This is experimental in all the right ways. There are some moments that sound straight doom metal, there are some fairly progressive bits, there is spoken word, grindcore vocals, gore grind vocals, death metal buzzsaw riffage, and even synths. Give this a listen if you want something just hideous but still really interesting. 9 Inch Nails with Together. 9 Inch Nails dropped 2 surprise free albums in the wake of the current worldwide pandemic. These are a follow-up to their 2008 dark ambient record Ghosts 1 through 4. I'm not going to give away too much as I'm going to be hopefully doing reviews for both of these albums in the coming days, but both of these records are over an hour's worth of material each. Let's just say that in terms of dark ambient music, these 2 records are breathtaking, and this is one of the best tracks. I'm really digging it, and it's a great soundtrack to the current chaos. Trivium with What the Dead Men Say. Well, Trivium is a band that have been a bit hit or miss for me when it comes to recent output, although I have tons of respect for Matt. But so far, the singles that are dropping for this upcoming record are just hard-hitting metalcore tracks. They're a bit restrained for my liking though production-wise, but the heart and soul and passion is still there. And as I know Trivium has it in them to be a bit heavier, I wish they maybe would've. Still, with that being said, the grooves are great, and the vocal refrains Matt hits are just, they hit on all cylinders in a way that are subtly intense. Got a new track by Bate Lightbringer, a band that I did not previously know about. Really happy I stumbled upon this. Really explosive combination of post-black metal and post-hardcore here, something I haven't really heard too much of before done to this effect. It mixes it pretty flawlessly, and honestly, out of the entire batch of tracks on this list this week, might be one of my favorites. Extreme buzzsaw on this track and some overwhelmingly powerful shrieked vocals that cycle from black metal and the tortured vocals you get from an old school post-hardcore band or even a screamo band. Really good shit. If I could say listen 100% to one of the tracks from here, it'd be this. Symbiotic Growth with Technological Singularity. If you're perhaps more of a fan of old school death metal but don't enjoy how murky and bassy and muddied many of these newfound bands are making it production-wise, check this track out. It's very much meat and potatoes in the way that a Cannibal Corpse is meat and potatoes and isn't necessarily the most progressive death metal, so if you like that just grunterial, guttural sound of old school death metal in the Cannibal Corpse vicinity, check it out. August Burns Red with Paramount. This band have progressively improved in my opinion. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of their initial releases back in the day. I loved Phantom Anthem, and it really seems like Guardians is going to be great as well. Not much more I could have asked for. I mean, some of the whoa background vocals come off a bit corny, and the breakdown isn't the most forward-thinking, but the breakdown in general is just overplayed nowadays in metalcore in a way that a lot of bands don't really feel like innovating. But all in all, it's a satisfying outing that keeps me very excited for this record coming up soon enough. Qbomb with Everything Is Fine. If you want a bit of an off-kilter, speedy vocal-led punk sound with a chaotic sound, check this one out. Was contacted by the manager for this band, and I have to say, for an independent band, the production's pretty killer on this one. At some points, the vocals can be kind of engulfed by the loudness of the instrumentation, and at times the equalization in general can feel a bit on the downturn compression-wise, but all in all, it's a great soundtrack to a time that's just as crazy and out there as we're all in right now, and this just matches it perfectly. Next up, Pearl Jam with Quick Escape. This is from the record Gigaton, which just dropped a bit ago, and another record that I hope to be able to get to soon enough, all things considered. Pearl Jam's always been, in my opinion, one of the grunge bands that have just steadily grown a bit, for lack of a better term, boring over time. I do think they still possess some of their trademarks, the choruses can still hit hard, and Eddie's still an extremely capable vocalist that hasn't necessarily worsened or anything like that. It's more so I just feel like they lack some of the grit, some of the edge that was present on some of their best records, and I think the lack of that and the feeling of them just becoming more of a generalized one-note hard rock band is a little bit sad to see, and I don't think that, judging by the cursory listen that I gave to Gigaton, they're ever going to really return to their old form, unfortunately. Ulcerate with Dissolved Orders, probably my favorite track out of this entire list. I love me some Ulcerate, probably one of my favorite death metal bands I've never covered before. With this new record approaching quickly, Stare Into Death and Be Still, my hype is at an all-time high. Syncopated rhythms, odd time signatures, so dense, reverbed out vocals that are all-consuming, and technical riffs flying from all directions, tempo changes aplenty, drum lines that are dizzying. There's no harmony to be found whatsoever here, a production that is impenetrable. It's just this big fog. Ulcerate is just great. They're so avant-garde, they're so odd, they're so fun to listen to, and they're so crazy to listen to. Check this out if you haven't. Next up, Dawn of Ouroboros with Revivified Spirits. Some pretty tasty and cold soundscapes coming from this band. They call themselves atmospheric death doom metal, which I think sticks pretty well. I do hear more black metal though, and I think the doom metal's a bit scant, but still. Besides the fact that I think this track takes a bit too much time to really go into full fruition and find itself fully realized, and the tension building isn't necessarily as poignant as it could be, I still mostly enjoyed this track. The Acacia strain was Solace and Serenity and The Lucid Dream. This new digital EP from the Acacia strain is out now, entitled E, go check it out. It's just a 2-track outing, and people that enjoyed their record It Comes in Waves last year will most likely feel a lot about the same way this EP. Guttural, heavy, low-end sound similar to, say, a Carnifex or a Whitechapel or a Thy Art Is Murder. I'm not planning on doing a full review of this EP considering it's just 2 tracks, and in many ways I feel a lot of the same way that I did about It Comes in Waves, and if you enjoyed that or disliked that, I feel you'll feel similar about this. Fit for a King with Breaking the Mirror. I am getting so many vibes from As I Lay Dying here, like sincerely. That and Kill Switch Engage, I mean, which is fine. Fans of a very 2000s metalcore sound, which, to be fair, Fit for a King came out in 2007, so they're on the back end of that wave, will most likely enjoy this. I also think that Bullet for My Valentine fans will most likely also get a lot out of the rhythms and the chorus work. Production isn't necessarily as absolutely punchy as it could be to really complement this sound, but that older style in the newer context is still pretty fun, although the AAA thing and the build-up of that is just a bit cringy. Next up, We Struck Gold with A Fallacy, That's Not Me. Dreambound's always reliable for these hyper-melodic metalcore bands, and this is not any different. You got some alternative sounds bleeding through this, but for the most part it's a drifting, cycling track that has much of the melodicism of a gent band such as Periphery or Era, and I like that even as it goes between a more rigid and a lighter style, it never really lets up. It's pretty constant and unrelenting, even in its softer moments. Next up is Elfor with Carasaran Provicia. Black metal fans, take note of this. Take note of this. This is a relentless, frigid black metal track that borders a bit on being long-winded, but otherwise is just so bitter to the touch, absolutely. This is a raw black metal in the same way that Profanatica is, and many other black metal bands that take the style and make it even more raw than some of the initial bands are. The subtle bits of symphonics that roar above the general black metal mix makes it perfect to be true cult, as they say, but overall, the mix is a bit odd. It's weird in the way that those symphonics kind of just just soar. They're towering over the main mix, but it is very interesting. Next up, As I Lay Dying with Destruction of Strength. Go figure, I was talking about As I Lay Dying a second ago, and here we are. Yeah, this is just an absolutely kick-ass track from an absolutely consistent band of metalcore. If you can count on a band, it's As I Lay Dying. I'm so happy Tim's back. I'm so glad the band's still kicking and they were able to find resolution. I loved Shaped by Fire, and it turned out to not only be one of my favorite metalcore records last year, but favorite metal records in general last year. And this is not from an album so far, so keep that in mind. This song's benefiting crew members and local charity, so it's just hard-hitting, it's fun, and fans of As I Lay Dying, it's gonna be ear candy. Creator with 666 World Divided. Creator's really been able to keep their style sounding rough as ever, and it's great. If you like Creator, you like them, and if you don't, you don't. They haven't really changed their formula at all in their career. They're still presenting very throttling, rageful, thrash metal riffs. They stay true to themselves, and consistently they've been sick, and that by itself is sick. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to let me know if you want to see the series continue on, because I'm having a lot of fun with it. What tracks were you bopping this week? I'd love to know in the comment section below. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morse, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.